So yesterday we shared a story with you about how some of the MSNBC hosts and other influential progressives like Arianna Huffington went to the White House. Now, Fox News flipped out over that. Fox and Friends, they're like, why didn't we get an invite? Can you believe that these progressives and these MSNBC hosts went to the White House? That's so crazy. Of course, Fox News would never do that. In fact, Laura Ingraham has this newsletter that she sends out, Your Daily Fix. And in it, she was outraged. I mean, come on, how could they possibly do this? In fact, the newsletter reads, Rachel Maddow, Al Sharpton, Lawrence O'Donnell, and Ed Schultz all stopped by the White House to discuss the president's fiscal cliff proposal. Can anyone even imagine how the press would have reacted if Fox News hosts and conservative personalities had stopped by the Bush White House to discuss policy? They would have been rightly outraged. Well, that is an excellent point by Laura Ingraham's newsletter. Except for this. In 2006, here's a picture of George W. Bush meeting with, well, let's take a look. Number one, on the right-hand side there, we got Michael Medved. Who is he? Oh, he's a Fox commentator. Fascinating. Well, on the left-hand side, number two over there, Gallagher. Who is he? Oh, right, he's a Fox contributor. Well, how about number three on the back to the right-hand side, close to the president? Oh, my God, that's Sean Hannity. That's a Fox News host. Fascinating. Rightly outraged. But wait a minute. There's one other person of interest here, and you might have noticed her already. Yep, that would be Laura Ingraham sitting right next to the president. Awesome. These people are made of fail. Can you believe it? Imagine if some Fox contributors and hosts had gone to meet with the president, how outrageous that would have been. Oops. Now, Mike Gallagher had said after the meeting, this was clearly an effort to kind of rally the troops when the troops needed rallying. So back then, they loved when the troops were rallied by the president. Now they're like, I guess Obama's trying to rally the MSNBC progressive commentator troops. That's how they are. And then MediaMatters explains, Mr. Gallagher said that he and other hosts, Mr. Hannity, Ms. Ingraham, Neal Boortz, and Michael Medved, talked about the experience on their programs for days and days and days. So back then, it was awesome. And then Sean Hannity even said about the meeting, quote, I think he'd have an 80% approval rating if he could bring people into the Oval Office, 6 people at a time, and explain it all to them, referring to George W. Bush. Now, again, Fox was criticizing the MSNBC host for fawning over Obama. I don't think any of them said, oh my God, if they knew what we knew, if they just talked to the dear leader, he would have an 80% approval rating. No, that would take a Fox News host to say something like that. So when Stone Cold busted on this, what happened? Oh, her newsletter was obviously hacked. No, they didn't claim that her tweeter was hacked, but they said that was a staffer. Of course, it was a staffer. No, obviously, she's on hiatus. They explain. During Laura's brief radio hiatus, the Daily Fix is written by staff, who should all immediately be fired. Although I didn't know Laura had visited Bush White House with other conservative radio hosts, the circumstances of her meeting the president were quite different. Well, of course they were. No. Yeah, when you meet with the president, it's totally different than when they meet with the president. They say Laura did not go to the White House to advise the president, but was simply briefed on policy for perhaps an hour. Oh, I see. It was a briefing rather than an advising. Which, by the way, we have no information on whether the Obama meeting was a briefing and advising or anything else regarding the progressive hosts and commentators. And so the distinction would be what? But here's my favorite part of the excuse. More importantly, it wasn't in the middle of a critical period when the president should be meeting with members of Congress to discuss resolving something as important as a fiscal cliff. I love that part, because they're basically saying, now, come on, remember, it was during George W. Bush's administration when everybody knows he didn't do shit. So it's not like we were interrupting anything important. It was Bush. He wasn't going to do anything anyway. He'd already invaded Iraq. We're just shooting the shit over there. He'd already given the tax cuts. He'd already tried to rob you of your Social Security, but hadn't succeeded. By the way, in the middle of 2006, of course, Iraq was in disastrous shape. We were in the middle of a horrible civil war there. Nothing important, though, like the fiscal cliff or anything like that. Their hypocrisy knows no bounds.